Hello, patriots, praying citizens, and truth seekers. Today is Thursday, April 25th. Well, it is happening. I have new information from our alphabet friend and lots to share with you. And the headline is that according to prosecutor Joe DiGenova, John Brennan isn't just guilty, but he's going to need 5 lawyers. Before I get into the posts, just let me give you a disclaimer. Some of you don't like the fact that I'm not actually naming things, but you don't understand the goons who operate this platform. They have said no, they will not allow theories of any sort to be out there, and they are cracking down hard on my channel, so I'm having to skirt around their censorship in order to give you the news. So let's dig in. It's really amazing. So let's start with the Punisher, and the headline, this is a quote from Joe DiGenova, the FISA court already told the Justice Department, this is Attorney General William Barr's department, about illegal FBI spying operation on not just the president, not just people in his campaign, but on the entire Republican Party. Then he gives us a link to a video, which I will put in the description box. I don't dare play it because I don't want a copyright strike, but I will give you all the important information. And he says, listen very carefully to statements made by Joe D. It's happening. Before we get to the exact words, remember, even back a month ago, March 27th, Senator Rand Paul said, a high-level source tell me it was Brennan who insisted that the unverified and fake Steele dossier be included in the intelligence report. Brennan should be asked to testify under oath in Congress ASAP. So last night, Joe DiGenova was interviewed by Mike Huckabee on the Ingraham angle. And this is the main thing coming out of that is the intelligence agencies hired contractors, 4 of them, to spy on Republicans for 4 years before the 2016 election. So this started in 2012. Who was president in 2012? Who held sway over all, who could appoint whoever he wanted in the FBI, the CIA, the DNI, all of it? Who was at the top of this? Well, yes, we all know who that was. So here's the statement from Joe DiGenova. This is pretty simple stuff for career prosecutors like Rudy and myself. It has been evident since day one that there's been a brazen plot to exonerate Hillary Clinton illegally, and then, if she lost the election, to frame Donald Trump. This dossier was a knowing part of that. It was created by Hillary Clinton. It was created knowingly by John Brennan as part of a scheme to do everything they could to harm Donald Trump. The problem for Brennan and Clapper and Comey and Baker and all of them now is the FISA court has already communicated with the Justice Department about its findings. And their findings are that for more than 4 years before the election of Donald Trump, there was an illegal spying operation going on by FBI contractors, 4 of them, to steal information on Americans and to use it against the Republican Party. There are going to be indictments. There are going to be grand juries. John Brennan is not going to need 1 lawyer. He's going to need 5. And when you think about this statement, Joe DiGenova does not have any official position with the administration. He's a career prosecutor. He does not have anything to gain by saying something that's completely false, but he has everything to lose. So I am going to trust this guy's words. He's a lawyer and he knows what he's saying. Then, on the next part, he says it's going to be bombshell. There's an IG report coming out in May or early June. Now, this is the Michael Horowitz report, I'm assuming. And then he says there's another report on Comey coming out in 2 weeks. Could that be the Huber report? It's possible. He says it's going to open up the investigation on a very high note, and it will contain criminal referrals. The FISA court was already investigating Comey, Clapper, Brennan, Baker, and turned their findings over to the Justice Department. It's been happening all this time. It's like the fruit on the tree. It hasn't been ripe yet, but it's getting really close to harvest time. Let's keep looking at these posts. Joe DiGenova states 4 FBI contractors were illegally spying. And let's look back at an older post because this is the proof from January 29th of 2018. And here you see it. Real time, 7 congressional members plus 3 senators plus 2 former O senior officials plus 4 outside contractors. And then they had no classification or top secret clearances. They were not allowed to be in the skiff looking at this stuff. DC Capitol, top security clearance is mandatory. So there we have it. A great proof. Now the next part. These are more proofs. And we have this Twitter account, Rosie's Ridiculous BS. These are the kind of proofs that are almost eerie. Today, Joe D. tells the world about 4 FBI contractors spying for 4 years prior to 2016. And then that was a link to that last post I just read you. And then this one, Barack Obama playing I Spy with children in this classroom. And our friend asks us, will this age well? No, but it's become a great source of humor. And it just shows you how prideful, how arrogant this guy was, knowing, now this is from February of 2013, he's in the midst of this spying operation, and he puts this out there. Now let's talk about the hero admiral, Mike Rogers. The post says, just under what we've already looked at, Michael S. Rogers. So here's what we know. He went to the FISA court and told them who the culprits were and to stop the spying madness. Now this is well before President Trump was elected. And then he quietly visited President-elect Trump at the Trump Tower after the election to tell him what was going on. So don't think any of this is catching the president by surprise. And then the next post reminds us that you attack those you fear the most. It's a link to an article in The Intelligencer, which is New York Magazine. The border crisis, FBI arrests far-right militia leader detaining migrants at gunpoint by Matt Steib. Here are the portions of that article that are probably the most important. Now remember, this is coming from fake news media, so read between the lines and know that the things that they say generally are the opposite of what they're saying. So, and that would be in the descriptive words that are contained herein. On Saturday, the FBI arrested 69-year-old Larry Mitchell Hopkins, the New Mexico, I'm not even going to say the words, okay, guys, you can see him there, leading a militia illegally detaining migrants at the southern border. So Hopkins is the head of the United Constitutional Patriots, an armed vigilante group that allegedly detained or kidnapped, according to the ACLU, again another suspect in the fake news propaganda, around 200 asylum seekers who crossed into the U.S. near Sunland Park, New Mexico earlier this week. He was arrested on charges of possessing firearms and ammo as a convicted felon. Okay, so he says that he once met with President Trump in a random encounter in a Las Vegas casino. Isn't that interesting? And the two have kept in touch ever since. He was interviewed by another suspected evil organization, the Southern Poverty Law Center. He had an interview with them and said that very high-level law enforcement had pre-warned him of armed groups already in the U.S., planning on, quote, flanking us to shoot us. All right, then it talks about theories that Hopkins and his group promote, and then ties him to our movement and suggests that, they say, oh, see how ridiculous these people are. The UCP has a radio show that discusses our movement and has suggested that Ilhan Omar is trying to impose Sharia law. Do these people not get that this is so obvious to us and to everybody else that even people in the middle and even people on the left understand some of them, that this is what Omar is trying to do. It's, they're just, they've believed their own lies, I guess. So now the next post, fake news links border militia leader to our movement. You attack those you fear the most. Nothing can stop what's coming, nothing. And then this is just the tweet that contained that article saying that the person Dio Presso Lieber knew the fake news would attempt to connect the militia leader with our movement. Also contained in the recent information is that William Barr is about to testify about the Mueller report on May 1st in front of Congress. And I wonder if it's, I don't remember if it's the House or the Senate, but if it's the House, I'm sure when this stuff starts coming out, they're going to withdraw these invitations for people to come testify because it's just going to make them look worse. Now let's switch gears and go to Tom Fitton from Judicial Watch. I didn't have a lot of information when I talked the other day, and I don't know which video it was, about them finding Hillary Clinton's emails in Barack Obama's office at the White House during his administration. There wasn't a lot of information out there, but it's starting to come out little by little, and as I get more, I will bring you more. But Tom Fitton was on Lou Dobbs last night, and he said that the DOJ has a standing policy that you cannot indict a Clinton. Here is his tweet. Remember, Comey's ambush of Trump with the Clinton DNC dossier garbage was orchestrated during an Oval Office meeting with Obama, Clapper, Brennan, and Rice. He also said that the Obama White House are implicated, and Barack Obama are implicated in all of this, and it should lead to a reopening to the Clinton investigation, which the FBI called the mid-year exam, where they basically didn't even investigate and anything. They were told from the beginning, we're not really looking for stuff, so don't bother really investigating this woman. And they actually have notes from the FBI that it was a sham investigation, and they literally called it the Clinton cover-up operation. This is beyond, when this stuff, this is why Congress, at least the House, does not want this to come out. And they don't want to interview any of these people because this is out there now. And because of a FOIA request, Tom Fitton has this information and is making it public. It's in-your-face evidence of Hillary's criminality. But he said at the end, the Department of Justice is still fighting Judicial Watch. Even while they're taking depositions, the DOJ is preventing them from becoming public. So what that tells me is that A, there's still a bunch of deep state people at the DOJ, but B, it also says it's possible that because we've gone through several Trump people, Sessions, Whitaker, and now Barr at the top, that it's just about the timing, and it's all going to come out. They're just not ready for it quite yet. Now, this is another astonishing piece of information, and this is an executive memo that Donald Trump put out yesterday, and to me it says that there's not going to be any more deep staters approving whether or not someone gets a top secret classification. So it's called the Executive Order on Transferring Responsibility for Background Investigations to the Department of Defense. It starts June 24th this year, and it gives a transition period of 180 days. First, this says that the Secretary of Defense has the authority to conduct security, suitability, and credentialing background investigations for the DoD personnel. And then later it says, and for everyone at the federal government. It renames the Defense Security Service, DSS, as the Defense Counterintelligence and Security Agency, DCSA. The DCSA shall serve as the primary federal entity for conducting background investigations for the federal government. The SecDef shall design, develop, deploy, operate, secure, defend, and continuously update and modernize as necessary information technology systems that support all personnel vetting processes. The SecDef shall maintain and safeguard the information relevant to the granting, denial, or revocation of eligibility for access to classified information. The SecDef shall operate the database in the information technology systems containing appropriate data relevant to the granting, denial, or revocation of eligibility for access to classified information. Donald Trump trusts the Secretary of Defense. And so this is him taking the authority away from the deep state and putting it where it belongs. Now, it's a good thing the military got that huge budget because they're going to have to find money in it to do just this. And notice how all the bases are covered. Design, develop, deploy, operate, secure, defend. So to me, in my mind, this is Donald Trump being a shrewd and fabulous leader. Now, for the laugh factor, we have all this heavy news. Let's do the laugh factor, and then we're going to go to the border. First of all, Eric Swalwell says Trump may still be a Russian asset, despite the Mueller report. This guy is going to look like such a fool in the coming days, and he deserves it. Then there was this. I don't know if you know, but Joe Biden just announced formally that he's going to run for president. And this cartoon captures it perfectly. And I think I accidentally cut the person's name off the bottom, and I apologize. I don't even know where it came from. It came off of Twitter. So you've got this poor gal here, and Biden groping her and sniffing her. And then you've got Hunter Biden, his son, groping and sniffing a bag of money that says Ukraine Gas Company. So in 2013, as vice president on official duties, Joe Biden takes his son Hunter with him to China, where Hunter gets $1 billion deal. It's a financial, I can't think of the name of it. Anyway, then in 2016, as vice president, Joe goes to Ukraine and he tells their prosecutors to knock off an investigation into corruption that involves his son and a Ukraine natural gas company. And this is one that Hunter owns with several other sons of Democrat politicians. You can't make this stuff up. All right, now let's talk about the border, baby. Donald Trump is on a tear. He is taking care of business. He says, can anyone comprehend what a great job Border Patrol and law enforcement is doing on our southern border? So far this year, they have apprehended 418,000 plus illegal immigrants, way up from last year. Mexico is doing very little for us. Dems in Congress must act now. This is what he does. He threatens, he lays praise where it's due, and he lays the blame where it's due, and he's trying to get Mexico to do their job, and let's see what happens. So he also put out these two tweets. A very big caravan of over 20,000 people started up through Mexico. It has been reduced in size by Mexico, but is still coming. Mexico must apprehend the remainder, or we will be forced to close that section of the border and call up the military. The coyotes and cartels have weapons and drugs. That was me on the aside there, guys, because yesterday he was in Atlanta talking about the war on fentanyl and heroin and other opioids, and this is how they bring this stuff into our country. Then he said Mexico soldiers recently pulled guns on our National Guard soldiers, probably as a diversionary tactic for drug smugglers on the border. Better not happen again. We are now sending armed soldiers to the border. Mexico is not doing nearly enough in apprehending and returning. So here is an article from earlier in the week from the Daily Wire. Trump win? Mexico arrests hundreds of Central American migrants. Here's the story, which I have to bring to the front. The Associated Press reports that journalists traveling alongside the caravan witnessed hundreds of migrants at the tail end of the 3,000-person group being detained and arrested by Mexican immigration officials, and then, quote, wrestling migrants into police vehicles for transport and presumably deportation. Of course, they don't like the fact that these officials are putting their hands on children also, but hey, you got to get them out of the country. Raids continued throughout the day on Monday, with immigrants reporting they were being hunted by immigration officials and targeted for deportation back to Central America. This is the second wave of mass detentions. The first came last week after the Mexican government closed off a visa office and demanded the migrant caravans turn around and return home or face arrest and deportation. So this is the way that you get it done. Donald Trump also threatened to close part of the southern border and send more armed soldiers to defend it if Mexico did not block this caravan. And then he talked about in his tweet this incident earlier this month where U.S. soldiers were briefly held at gunpoint by Mexicans who took one American soldier's gun and put it in the car. The Mexican troops had believed the U.S. soldiers were south of the border and therefore in Mexico. After a brief discussion, the Mexican troops left the area. So that's the AP giving us that information. Now we have this from Politico today. The Department of Homeland Security draft proposal would speed deportation. So they're weighing a plan to bypass immigration courts and remove undocumented immigrants who cannot prove they've been present continuously in the U.S. for 2 years or more. This is a draft regulatory notice, and this is from 2 unnamed officials and a third person familiar with the planning. If it's finalized, it represents the latest escalation of President Trump's immigration crackdown. So under the current standard, expedited removal is applicable only to immigrants picked up within 14 days of arrival. The 2-week cutoff stems from a 2004 regulatory change, not from the 1996 statute that created the process. The change could speed up the deportation of recent arrivals at the border and reduce the load on federal immigration courts, which have grappled with a soaring case backload. Now, this is from the Border Patrol's Twitter account. As of last week, Border Patrol apprehensions for fiscal year 2019 is 418,000 plus, which surpassed the total apprehensions in 2018 of 404,000. So look, we're not even 6 months into the year. So this is just backing up what the president tweeted, and then here is this great photo, and I'll put the link in the description box if you want to go look at it. So this special agent is being honored by the Department of Justice for his work on a investigation, and it affects the youngest members of society. And again, I cannot say these words, guys. You don't understand. They automatically censor the video when it first comes out, and then I have to go appeal it. And they go back and they find the place, or they don't find sometimes they don't find the place. And if I say anything related to this kind of deed, even if it's clean, I don't show pictures, whatever, they continue to suppress the video. So that's why I have to do this. I'm very sorry. You have to imagine what I'm talking about. This is great because really it pulls your creativity in and it gets you more engaged in the video. So we have one more PEDO who was a corrections officer behind bars because of this special agent's work. His name is John Shields. He was assigned to Douglas, Arizona Homeland Security Investigation. He worked on this case that led to the discovery of a huge cache of videos, and he was reviewing evidence from a separate case in Canada. He tracked the distribution of the videos to a former corrections officer who was producing them and distributing them online. Got the guy a 60-year prison sentence, which is the highest prison sentence yet for this type of case in southern Arizona, because he proved that the very youngest were also being exploited, and there was a pattern of such actions. All right, so no more nothing being done, right? Just like the deep state is trying to tell us, and the people who hate this movement and the people who are frustrated, they say, oh, nothing's being done. So here's another example. This gal is the mayor of Baltimore. Her name is Catherine Pugh. And on Thursday morning, the IRS and the FBI descended on her home and her offices, and they took stuff. So she's under investigation over the sales of her Healthy Holly children's books. She announced earlier this month that she was taking a leave of absence amid the scandal, and the Baltimore Sun reported last month that Kaiser Permanente paid $114,000 for 20,000 copies of her books. Let me guess, they weren't really selling, so Kaiser Permanente steps in, buys the books, between 2015 and 2018. And in 2017, the city's spending board, which Pew sits on, awarded a $48 million contract to Kaiser for health benefits to city employees. Okay, that is the end of this one. Like I said, I'm going to probably have to make another one just because the news is coming out so fast I can barely keep up with it. Let me tell you, when I started doing reporting back in 2015, I was just doing a newsletter. I could get it done in about, the worst day was 5 hours. Today, anyway, just so you know, it takes days now sometimes to put one video together, because just when I start getting going on something, other news breaks and I got to drop what I'm doing and start something else. So I just give you all credit for keeping up with this stuff, for passing the information on to other people as you're able to, because we got to come alongside these people very gently and gently give them information, ask questions, and get them involved and engaged. And so this audience is tremendous. I just give you guys kudos. Your comments are generally just amazing. You bring more information to these videos because of your comments. And for those of you who provide constructive criticism, thank you. Thank you for keeping it nice. I want to be the best I can be at this stage, and I'm still learning what I'm doing. I had a long life before I started doing these reports, so I appreciate your patience with me. Thank you all so much, and I just want to give praise and glory and honor to God, who is doing what we've been asking for so many years. For me, decades. Decades and decades of pleading, God, please. And not that we have to plead, but it is, remember, the unrighteous judge is the one who, finally, the woman wore him out, because she just kept coming to him, and the Bible just kept coming, and he's like, I don't care about man, I don't care about God, but because this woman is wearing me out, I'm going to answer her prayer. Well, how much more delight does God have in answering our prayers for righteousness and judgment, even as we try to clean up our own lives and walk in righteousness and allow him to sanctify us. So, Father, thank you. Thank you for this audience. We give you praise and glory and honor in the mighty name of Jesus Christ. Amen.